DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by diehard Florida State fans and boosters, the Lemmix family in Pensacola. So cut them some slack for their Hurricane blend. No green and orange, and it's definitely not all about some random letter in the alphabet. It simply is a blend for those of you who love that strong coffee flavor without bitterness. DeLuna has combined 2 different South American beans with a Hawaiian bean. In fact, the Hurricane blend has won as many ACC titles as the school in Coral Gables. Try it or one of their other 24 blends and get a discount when you use the promo code WARCHANT15. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Somebody tweeted at us, Corey, about them ordering DeLuna, enjoying it, but it's just buried under all the mentions on our Twitter feed. Hashtag humblebrag. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Do subscribe to the website, maybe even the YouTube channel. That's free of charge. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Corey Clark, this is our last Monday show where we have to more or less stall, tap dance, if you will, entertain the people. We're going to have stuff we can sink our teeth into, practice observations, quotes, things of that nature, because Florida State starts their preseason football camp on August 7th, which is Saturday. Can you dig it?
It's crazy. It's almost here, Aslan. It really is. It's also our last week kind of freedom before the real work starts. So I'll go ahead and tell people I'm actually in Biloxi, Mississippi, the Las Vegas of the Delta, the good Delta, not the Delta we're all dealing with in the country. So I'm here with some about 7 or 8 buddies. We're going to have a couple nights in Biloxi, just, doing what guys do in Biloxi, which means gambling.
You're Mr. Gulf Coast over here. You've been in Panama City Beach, then you were in Santa Rosa Beach, now Biloxi. You just live on I-10, huh?
These are my people, man. These are my people. It's part of the world. If any of you guys are listening in Alabama, especially the Mobile area, if you'll let me know what the flip is going on there, I have no idea. Like, I was just in a 45-minute traffic jam on a Sunday afternoon going through a tunnel.
Yep, always.
I have no idea what was going on.
Always. It's just, that's part and parcel of Mobile. I mean, I think only once Mobile? Or twice, if I've been through there that it hasn't backed up. It gets bad. Was it raining? It's usually raining, too, when I drive through Mobile.
No, at least I avoided that. But, okay. I mean, good grief. That was crazy. It came out of nowhere. Just cruising down I-10 like a bird, and then all of a sudden it's a traffic jam for 45 minutes. Get yourself together, Mobile. You got a lot to offer.
You going to lay down any futures bets for us on the Noles? Like any 1,000 to 1 Mackenzie Milton Heisman odds or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't think they get that detailed here at the sports book in Biloxi, but I will try to get, if I can find some futures, I'll definitely do a college football one or two. I'm feeling the over. If it's 5.5 here at this casino, I'm gonna go with the over, I think.
Okay. I'm looking at Vegas Insider. They've got your guy JT Daniels plus 1,100 to win the Heisman. Bryce Young plus 1,200. Spencer Rattler plus 800. He's apparently the odds-on favorite, according to this one. I think it's BetMGM.
It's an Oklahoma quarterback. So
Sam Howell 1,600 plus 1,600, 16 to 1 odds.
Okay, all right. Is Toafili in there at all?
No, I don't see him on this list. There could be much more. I just see the 7 or 8 they have on there. And then the guy from Alabama that's apparently has 7 figures of NIL, and he's not even played one single game or started anything of consequence. So
right, yeah.
But we're almost here. We did it. We made it through almost an entire offseason. We just got to figure out a way through this week, which we will. We've got our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week for the 2000s, also dubbed the Lost Decade by some scholars. Really deliberate a lot over that one. We'll uncork that one later on the show. We've also got, coming up on the website later this week, maybe our What If finale, courtesy of producer Dave in Bardstown, Kentucky, and that would be what if Corey Clark, Florida State does beat Notre Dame in week 1. And I don't want you to spill all your answers, all your secrets that you gave up in the round table. But for me, it resets the schedule. Right now, as we sit here, you and I talking, that Notre Dame game obviously is the opener, but the Wake Forest game is sort of that make or break game, it feels like, because then you're, if you lose a Notre Dame game, then you're possibly 1-2, and that's not a good place to be. But my whole feeling is that if you beat Notre Dame, I don't want to say I'm going to look past Dave Clawson and Demon Deeks, but I'm going to get really, really optimistic. I'm going to get drunk on the Garnet and Gold Kool-Aid and then think like the whole season more or less comes down to that North Carolina game. Like you could be going 6-0 if you win that game into your bye week, and then you're 7-0 in College Game Days following you to Clemson, South Carolina. Dream that little dream with me, Corey, would you? Or where are you? What happens if Notre Dame loses to Florida State?
Yeah, I think as I wrote about, I just, nobody on this roster that's been at Florida State the whole time knows what it's like to be 1-0. I guess technically, though, there's half the team now, it seems like, hasn't been at Florida State their whole career, so maybe they do know. But this fan base has been depressed every second weekend of September for half a decade now. It just, when you lose 4 straight season openers, think about an NFL team doing that. Does that happen? Like maybe the Chargers or somebody? Like who loses 4 straight season openers? You're always depressed. And in an NFL, it's like, well, okay, we still got 15 games to work, to get things back on track. That doesn't happen in college football, and you always start the season so behind the 8 ball and depressed and like, oh God, is this team ever going to win a game? Can it win a game? Can it get to 6 wins? I just think it would be so big for the fan base to not only to be 1-0. I mean, that would be huge in itself because it hadn't happened in a while. It hadn't happened since Ole Miss, man. Think about what all you guys were doing when Florida State got down 28-10 in that game or whatever and came back and won. Think about what all you guys were doing, how your lives were different. That's the last time you felt what it was like to be 1-0 as a fan of your college football team. So just to be 1-0, especially a win over Notre Dame, I think it gives it makes the belief in Norvell more concrete among the players, which is a very big deal. I think the players have bought in. I think they believe in this guy. I really do. But how much can you really believe until you start seeing it? I mean, you can only believe to a certain point, I guess I should say. They might be hitting their heads on their ceiling of belief after a 3-6 season. But you can't really believe until you start seeing the results on the field. And if you go in 1 year from giving up 400 yards rushing to Notre Dame, I know you kind of were in that game, but still, it was, they just ran wild on you. If you can go 1 year later and beat that team on opening night to go 1-0, and then you have another win coming the next week to go 2-0, man, I just think that would do worlds of wonder for the fan base that needs some good news, man. It just hasn't gotten good news in half a decade.
And honestly, even that Ole Miss game, as I kind of said on our roundtable, that was more sigh of relief. Like, it really wasn't a celebratory win. I mean, it was good to beat an SEC team, beat them in that fashion, come back from behind.
Well, and so was the Oklahoma State one, right? When you go back to that opener. So really, the last time you felt really good about your football team to open – I don't count 2015 when they opened up with Texas State or whoever.
Yeah, agreed.
2013 was the last time you felt good about your football team, like wondrously good about your football team after one game. That's crazy at a place like Florida State. It has been a root canal for the last 8 years when it comes to season openers. So a win over Notre Dame, I don't even know if you can quantify how big it would be for the fan base. Like, I know there are people that are kind of got their foot halfway in the water. They're all jumping in if they beat Notre Dame, especially if they. I mean, not that you're gonna. You would take a 3-2 win, right. But if you beat them convincingly, or it's not fluky, you actually outplay them. I just think people would be like, oh man, we might have gotten the real deal as a coach and a coaching staff.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if fluky. I was thinking about the Miami game 2005. That was not a very aesthetically pleasing victory. I don't think they're not going to mint that one and roll it in the Smithsonian for people that want to see what college football was like. But it'd been so long since we had beat Miami that didn't really seem to matter. So I wonder if we're in that same position where even if it is fluky, if you will, even if it's an ugly 20-17 win, I don't really know how much. I mean, we'll nitpick it. We kind of have to. We're going to have to, we'll have a whole entire week of shows to talk about it. We're not going to preview the Jacksonville State game all that in depth. It's not what we do.
Right.
But I don't think the fans really are going to be that discouraged.
No, and I don't know. You would, like I said, you would take a 3-2 win and go celebrate. You'd go want to tear down the goalpost.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you beat Notre Dame and it's like you know,
31
conclusive
31-17, something nice.
Yeah, or right? you outgain them by 150 yards. Yeah. It's not like you blocked 2 kicks and ran them back for touchdowns and that's how you win, but they outgain you 500 to 160. Like if you play with them and play better than them on the field and beat them, then yeah, man, I think. But your fans are going to be over the moon no matter what if you come out with one more point than Notre Dame. I'm just saying I think even if it was an emphatic win, and you take any win you can get at Florida State, I'm granted, but a 31-17 win where you kind of control the game, man, all of a sudden you start like you said, you start thinking about, okay, we could be a game day. We could be undefeated. We could be top 5 in the country when we play Clemson. That's how much you're not thinking that right now. Clearly, who would? But if you beat Notre Dame, all of a sudden you start having those thoughts like, man, they might be 5-1 or 6-0 at the break.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what that win would do, and that's just a place this fan base hasn't been in 5 years.
No concern about a hangover for me though. Like, would you have concern about a hangover if they were to win that game in terms of like being able to handle success? Now, granted, they don't have that big of a trap in front of them with Jacksonville State the next week, but I would think that having been through what they were last year, having beat North Carolina, and I know several of those guys are no longer here, some are in the NFL, some have left, attrition, et cetera, but you have so much transfer experience that's dealt with success at a pretty good level, right? Jermaine Johnson, Mackenzie Milton, et cetera, that I think even if you were to have a bit of a letdown maybe against the Jacksonville State, there's enough leadership that you probably would be ready to go for that Wake Forest game. Because that's the whole thing, right? You've mentioned it before. Yeah, go beat Notre Dame, but then what happens if you lose at Wake Forest? I almost think it's a combination sort of thing. Like you win that Notre Dame game, you're probably, I don't want to say definitely, feel really, really good about you going up and beating Wake Forest afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think confidence is one of the bigger things you can attain in sports. Talent is probably the most important, but confidence is right there. And I just think if you beat Notre Dame, that gives a bunch of players who have never had confidence at this level, now maybe confidence in themselves, but confidence that their team is going to win games, that hasn't been there. And if it has, it's been false confidence because they haven't won games. I just think that instills some confidence and belief that is a big deal. Anybody that's played sports knows how big confidence is. It's not just a cliche sports psychology crap. It's real stuff. Confidence does matter. I think that definitely matters. I don't know if I necessarily worry about a hangover though, because how about just cross that bridge when you get there? You know what I mean? Like that's something we could talk about. If they beat Notre Dame and beat Jacksonville State, that's certainly a topic we can address going into the Wake Forest game. But right now, the whole plan is just to get hammered drunk and deal with the hangover the next day. We'll deal with the hangover when the hangover presents itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
The first things first, you gotta win that game, and then we'll see what happens. You would hope it wouldn't be like when Texas beat Notre Dame, whenever that was 7 or 8 years ago. That might have been the same weekend as the Ole Miss Florida State. So 5 years ago. You hope it doesn't turn out like that, where the season goes off the rails after a big win over Notre Dame. But I just think the win itself would do so much good for the fan base and the program. Like they just haven't had moments, man. Even last year, I know that was a nice win against North Carolina. It was in front of 9,000 people, like a full house. Doak at its best, at its peak. Watching a game like that, the whole country seeing Doak like that, and winning that game on a primetime Sunday night with nobody else playing, I think you can't overstate how much that would mean.
Moving along then. Again, practice starts Saturday. Strength and conditioning has, I think, gone through their last week of real big, lifts and stuff like that. Steven Dix Jr. was the player granted the honor of cracking the stone, Corey. All the players signed the stone, and then the strength and conditioning staff picked their standout player of the offseason to smash the stone, the rock, break the rock, whatever they call it. We'll have some of that not video of him actually swinging it, but we're going to have a nice feature on the strength and conditioning program. Stephen Dix is one of the guys that's actually featured in the video that we're doing. You know my guy, actually your guy, our guy, I'm still a little bit – I hope it all works out. I still think we give maybe too much benefit of the doubt to him for being a true freshman last year with his struggles. He did not grade out, obviously, very well. He admitted to me that he really thinks that he needed to kind of make those mistakes to learn from, and he's in a completely different mindset right now, completely different headspace. You'll hear from that in the video feature. But he weighs 240 right now. That's – and he looks every – did you see – there's actually like a photo, I think Coach Johnson tweeted it out, of him. He can hang out with Greg Jones. Like Greg Jones would let him hang out with him in the gym.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he's young, too. He's like 19. So what's he going to look like when he's 24, 25? And yeah, I remember I don't know if you remember the footage of Ron Simmons when he was a freshman at Florida State in like 77. It just looked, and back then the weight training wasn't nearly what it is now. He looked like he had just been sculpted out of rock. It's just crazy, some of the – so, yeah, Dix definitely has that look. We don't question what his strength can be, right? Like, I think we know that he's big enough and strong enough to play the position and play it well. Can he move well enough? Can he move well enough, and can he diagnose quick enough? Those are the two things you don't know. Those are the two things that certainly weren't proven last year, which is, again, I think to your point, that you're not a 100% believer in him. How could you be? We didn't see enough. Now, he should get better because you do get better between your freshman and sophomore year, technically, or theoretically, that's the goal. And he was thrown into a terrible position last year. You hope that Marv and Fuller can put him and all those guys in better position to succeed. Because last year, they weren't very good. It didn't appear to be like they were coached all that well. At least... Or they might have been coached perfectly well, but they're freshmen that make mistakes, and you just have to live with it. But, man, they made a lot of them. All those linebackers did.
It's just crazy to me that I guess maybe there isn't a lot of gray when you're talking about a college football roster. With an NFL roster, you've got rookies, you've got guys that are 15-year veterans. But the fact that like a true sophomore is probably 19 years old, maybe he's 20, and his first season was a COVID year, like he's the guy that they've determined is a leader in the weight room. It'd either be him or I guess a transfer. There's not like juniors on this team that we're counting on, right? Maybe like Amari Gaynor is one of the guys you kind of think about. But it's either you are 22, 23 years old and this is like your fifth year, or they're counting on guys that are still, really only one full year removed from high school in terms of playing college ball. It's just crazy to think about the sort of disparity in experience on this team. It's either you're wet behind the ears or you're long in the tooth. But such is the way that you've developed a roster. I want to play the soundbite from him.
That's what he had to do, though, right? That's what he had to do with this. He couldn't cut. Thank heavens he got some transfers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean this would not be a really pleasing roster to look at if he hadn't knocked it out of the park in the portal.
Now, I don't know if the following soundbite that we're going to play, Corey, I don't know if this is encouraging or depressing, but I asked Stephen Dix, and this is my fault as an interviewer. I haven't interviewed somebody in a long time. We didn't have Radio Row at ACC kickoff, so you and I couldn't sit there and shoot the breeze with our buddies from Syracuse and Boston College. But I was asking him, like, what's your diet? I want to know some of the nutritional background diet that they've got these guys on. And I just kind of asked him, like, what do you eat on like a Thursday? But then I kept rambling because I don't know when to stop talking. I'm like, give me a good day when Stephen Dix Jr. is eating well. And here's what he said. Walk me through like a Thursday, like what do you eat from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed? Give me like a good day where Stephen Dix Jr. is eating well.
So if we go through a day where I'm eating good, okay, so we'll go through like on a weekend. We'll go through like a Friday, like the last week of the last day of the week, you know what I'm saying? Or so in the morning we'll have workouts, then we'll have a big breakfast. About 5 or 6 eggs, put all the bacon, the turkey, the ham. I put all that in there and I throw some sausages with it. And then I might get a muffin or something. And then lunchtime comes, I might just get like a little snack. I'm not really a 3-meal a day type of guy. I'll probably just get a little snack like some Cheez-Its or some Goldfish or pretzels and stuff like that. But yeah, after that, and it's like a big workout day, we probably did like a workout in the morning, and then we had to come back and do like a skills and drills, I'll probably like come home at night. I'm gonna be real. That's when like I get my junk food going, man. Especially on the weekend. I'll get a whole pizza, you know, probably like a pack of family size Oreos, man. I'm eating really sloppy. Yeah, people
Like
think
double
I eat
stuff and just throwing down.
Dude, people think I eat healthy. I eat like when it comes to during the week, I eat healthy. But when the weekend hits, oh no, that's like when I just go crazy on my junk food. I'll order candy, you know what I'm saying? I'll probably drink a couple of Sprites, but during the week, I make sure I eat proper because I have to train and work out.
Is that how?
Is it fair? Possible? No, it's not fair. What would I look like if I ate and this isn't like because I'm in my 40s. It's like what would I have looked at 19 if I did that? I would have been a house. But some people, I didn't work out like Dix does, obviously, but some people's metabolism, man, it's just not fair. I had a buddy that from high school buddy that is still to this day, he can eat whatever. I'd sit there and watch him eat a whole plate of nachos, a whole plate, and he would eat it. He's one of those people that would eat it in 4 bites. He would put so much in his mouth that he couldn't. It would just cover his face, and nothing. He had 6-pack. He had abs. It's just people are built like that, man. It's not fair. The genetic lottery. But yeah, that's you have to really be working out a lot and be incredibly strong with some pretty good genetics to eat a whole thing, a family, not even just like a sleeve of Oreos.
No.
A family pack. He just houses the whole thing?
Yes.
And a pizza?
A whole pizza by himself.
I mean, what's he drinking?
And he says he has a couple Sprites. My guy. Sprite drinker.
Right. Well, no caffeine. Caffeine's bad for you.
It is bad
so no
for
caffeine, I guess. But yeah, so like that. Just think about what he's putting into his body, all of that, and then how much his body is working to make it look like that.
It's not.
That's crazy. The metabolism that he has. It's just eating. His muscles are just feasting on that stuff.
And before people start thinking that this staff is letting guys eat like a pig, I guess.
Right.
That he did assure me that that's like a weekend, one kind of day a week thing. He otherwise is eating extremely healthy and clean. But, you know, you get a cheat day. You're allowed to do that. So when you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. That's the way he
Man,
works.
That is a big-time cheat day. That is like an Auburn in the mid-'80s cheat day.
Nice.
I mean, that is crazy. Just brazenly cheating.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
All right, let's get to it. Let's go to the lost decade, Corey. The 2000s. I was gonna go with our guy Leon Washington, like 2002 Florida. That was a big-time performance, but then I look at the box score. I was really going to start off with Wyatt Sexton, but I went and looked at the box score against 2004 Virginia. Maybe I shouldn't look at box scores because it really does sort of cloud your memories. I thought that Wyatt Sexton was Jameis-esque versus Pitt in that game, but not quite. So I'm going to go Greg Jones, and the Miami game really kind of is his magnum opus 2002, but we didn't win that game. So how about the Clemson game? Thursday night, 22 carries, 165 yards. That's 7.5 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns, including a 64-yarder where he dragged half the team with him across the goal line. So my Zaxby's indescribably good player of the week from the 2000s, Greg Jones, 2002 versus Clemson. Thursday night game at Doak, magical.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. Leon had a kickoff return in that game for a touchdown, I believe. But that run, I feel like it's gotten lost in history a little bit. Go on YouTube and find 2002 FSU Clemson Greg Jones because he was great the whole night. But that run, he's literally he's tossing dudes. But I'm going to go 2003. And one of the hard luck cases in Florida State history, really, but I want to give him his due, is Crefonzo Thorpe. If you know anything about him, his career at Florida State, you know what game I'm picking. But I'm going Notre Dame. It was in South Bend. It was the year after Notre Dame had come down to Tallahassee and kind of embarrassed Florida State, really. And then they go right back up there and beat the bejesus out of them, 37-0.
Yes. My
man Crefonzo. You ready, Aslan?
I'm ready.
7 catches, 217 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had a 35-yarder from Chris Ricks, and he had a 38-yarder from Chris Ricks. And if you remember the Chris Ricks throws, it was essentially, hey, man, go up and get that for me.
Yeah.
Alfonso just went up and made those Notre Dame DBs look like children. Absolute children. He went up to the 10th floor and dropped them off at the 7th and had made it look easy, and they were jump balls. But 7 catches, 217 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and a 37-0 whooping at Notre Dame Stadium. How about this, too, by the way? I just looked at Rick's stats for that game. It's a perfect Rick's game. 17 of 31 for 327 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I mean, it's perfect, right?
Those are Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week, back from the 2000s. It's called Wake Up Warchant. Probably listening to this in the morning. Maybe you're listening to it later on in the day, but do stay connected to warchant.com. There probably is going to be some good news on the recruiting front this afternoon. Jalen Early, a 4-star offensive lineman out of the state of Texas, Rivals 250 guy, is going to commit at noon on Monday. And the indications, the vibe, if you will, according to our Michael Langston, is that Florida State will be securing his services. So he'll be their 18th commitment, Corey, solidifying their spot there in the top 5. I don't know. They might even jump. Maybe they'll jump whoever's in front of them and become number 4 with the addition of a 4-star Rivals 250 guy. It's just, man, they're not stopping. There's a small window that was open last week that they brought some guys on officially. Marvin Jones Jr. was one of the guys. And then as soon as August 1st starts back up and this quiet period kind of kicks back in, I think it's kicked back in. They're likely going to pull another guy, an offensive lineman as well. So they're getting quality and positions of need. And again, a lot of my concern was whether or not Mike Norvell had the gravitas to walk into some of these high schools and pull elite prospects out. And man, they've got a number 5 class right now. And we can say what happens if they start losing games, and will they be able to hold on to these guys? What if they start winning more of these games?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, that's one of the great what ifs of that the Notre Dame win. Imagine what that would do. I think for people like Travis Hunter and those guys, it just reaffirms, confirms. Okay, this cements it. It uses cement there. But for other kids, it just opens up. Man, maybe Florida State. Maybe this isn't all just talk. I love his message. I love what he's selling. But let's see results on the field. When you start seeing results on the field, yeah, man, it could. Yeah. I mean, this is honestly what I thought Taggart was going to be doing. Right. I thought Taggart, even with bad records, would be able to have them in the top 5, top 7 of recruiting classes. And then, even if you're not good at a great coach, you can Ron Zook your way to 7 or 8 or 9 wins with just superior talent. That seems to be and I always said that Taggart could, if he could ever win, it could become a juggernaut. Well, now I guess I'm starting to feel that way about Norvell. If he's doing this with what he did in the portal and now what he's doing on the recruiting trail, and especially if they get this kid later today, you're talking about a top 5-ish class, and then without coming off a 3-6 season. Now throw in some big wins in an 8-4, 9-3. The roller coaster's going up the tracks. I guess roller coaster isn't the analogy you want to use. The plane is taking off; it's climbing. You're going to want to be on board with that, man. I think that. Yeah, you're right. That's a really good point about we always wonder, can you hold Travis Hunter? Can you hold these guys if you lose? Well, buddy, what kind of fish are you going to be able to get if you start winning?
Why would you use the plane metaphor, Corey? You don't like planes.
No, I don't, but they do take off. I was thinking a roller coaster. I was thinking about it when it goes up the tracks real slow till it gets to the top. Yeah. But then we don't want that because then it dips straight back down. So that was why I ran away from that metaphor.
It just builds more momentum to go up. Once again, then you start climbing again.
Yeah, that's right. So this was the dip. This last 4 years we've been coming in hard
by the dip,
straight down. So now when you start going back up, you're going to be flying upwards.
Also on the recruiting front, Sam McCall from Lake Gibson here in Central Florida. I think at one time might have been a Gator commit. Apparently went to Gainesville this past weekend. Some concern there. But he literally came out and tweeted a graphic that said nah, we're good. Nah, we're sticking with Florida State. That's what he tweeted out. Literally.
Did you see? Well, good for you, Sam. I don't know if the Florida coaches. Well, it was an unofficial, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's I wouldn't like it if a kid did that on an official. They roll out the red carpet. They have all these people put this whole schedule for you together just for you to come out and tweet, "Nah, I'm good." it seems a little disrespectful on an official visit when there's actually money being spent. But an unofficial visit, do whatever you want. Like go be like the Orson Charles and just start kicking over trophies. You know what I mean? If it's unofficial, go knock over trophies like he did. You remember that when he?
No,
I don't remember if he.
I remember
it was the kid that was the tight end at he was at Plant.
I know who Orson Charles. I don't remember any stories.
Yeah,
about
he was on
the
he was on a visit to Florida, and he knocked over either the national championship trophy or a Heisman trophy and broke it accidentally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We meant saying he was out.
No,
there
he didn't. Yeah, he didn't take it up and spike it like a football. No, but I'm saying you could always make things look like accidents.
Yeah, he shattered the BCS trophy. There you go.
and then he chose another school. Pretty awesome. Anyway, so yeah, go do that. I don't care, but yeah, that's more good news, man. That's more good news, and the officials should start coming fast and furious, and well, for the Notre Dame game, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey man, we spent a week and a half talking about this revenue disparity between us and the SEC, and you're all worried about bad and good looks and optics, about money that it costs on official. Go ahead, take away some of the money from Florida, Sam McCall. Make them spend money.
That's true. Make them waste it on you. That's a good idea.
Make them give the bag man. Make them give the bag man. Don't give the money back. Keep it. What are they going to do? Tell?
Right. You'd be like, I thought we were just friends. He was helping me out.
All right, we have the 30-minute mark, so I don't feel that bad. But I just wanted to float something out there, Corey, half playful, half serious, about expansion. I think David Pollack went on ESPN and was talking about if you're the ACC, if you're the SEC and you're trying to keep expanding, Clemson's probably the team that you circle and square and want to pull in. Didn't mention Florida State. So, right. And I'm being somewhat serious here. There's this belief, and some people think there's data behind it, that ESPN has given Florida State short shrift for a long time. Whether it's doing an end-of-season montage and Florida State only gets, half a second of FaceTime and other programs get more. You're of the belief, you've grown up with Florida State being one of the superior programs in the entire nation, that, when all the dust settles, Florida State's going to find a home. They'll be in one of these super conferences, maybe even the SEC. ESPN, though, if they really do control, and they do control the inventory, and they're the ones that are cutting these checks out to these universities, these conferences for all these, TV deals. If there is a sort of FSU bias, then when it comes down to volunteering teams telling the SEC, maybe look at this one, like, do you think Florida State won't be maybe in the top 2 or 3 teams that ESPN's going to try to jockey and lobby the SEC to consolidate with?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I don't know. I think ESPN, whether you think they have an FSU bias or not, their only real concern is money. And Florida State has proven to be a moneymaker, especially when they're good. It is a national brand. It's an iconic brand, I've heard, but it's definitely a national brand. It's one of the bigger brands in the sport. You would not want to not have it. If you're an ESPN bean counter, and you're sitting there thinking about, okay, we want a 20-team league, and we're going to break off like the Super Premier League in soccer. We're going to break off and have our own league and our own championship. How are you going to sit there and go like, do we want Florida State? No, probably not. But Vanderbilt's in, right? Yeah, Vandy's in because they're a charter member of the SEC. Well, that makes sense because that's what we care about. We care about history and tradition when it comes to college football. That's been made clear in the last 15 or 20 years with everybody crisscrossing the country to play games in different conferences. So, no, I think what that would come down to is I don't think that ESPN would keep Florida State out because of some bias. They want to make money. Florida State is a national brand, and you need it. You can't. They will realize, I promise, it doesn't seem like they will. They will realize they do not want to be they do not want to be a network that caters to just 7 teams. They just don't. Ole Miss and Mississippi State don't move any needles. Neither does Vanderbilt, neither does Kentucky. Tennessee, sorta. Missouri, nope. Right. Like, there's 7 or 8 schools in Arkansas, no chance. You think they get good ratings, Arkansas? So there's 6 or 7 or 8 schools that are dead weight in that conference when it comes to championships and when it comes to ad rates, viewerships, eyeballs. There's half that conference nobody cares about. So then why? I don't think you would go into a 20-team conference with Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Missouri, and then be like, yeah, but we don't want Florida State. That just I can't fathom that happening because it's about money, and it's about interest, and it's been proven nobody is interested in those schools I just mentioned, and they're terrible. They've been terrible at football since all of us have been alive. What's the best Ole Miss football moment in history, Aslan? Is there one?
Oh, yeah, they beat Alabama 2 years in a row.
Great.
Yeah,
but,
literally, seriously, the Sugar Bowl victory over Oklahoma State like 5 years ago.
Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's sad. Arkansas hasn't been good since the early 70s. What's Mississippi State's claim to fame? Did they win or lose the game when the kid raised his leg up and peed like a dog?
They won that one, but they're the answer to the Trivial Pursuit question in 2014 when the college football went to a playoff and they revealed their first ever poll who was the number one team in the nation that week.
Man, do they still have Trivial Pursuit?
I don't know. I think all these bar trivia games have made that obsolete.
Man, I used to love that game.
So did I.
Man, I loved that game. But if you played it enough, you got all the questions. So they should they should do another one of those. I think people would love to play Trivial. That in itself, everybody going to play team trivia and everything, it would make whoever it is, Hills. What is it? What are the game companies?
Hasbro? I don't know.
Hasbro. I was going to say Hillsboro. It would make
Parker
Hasbro
Brothers?
think like
Parker Brothers.
Yeah, maybe Parker Brothers. Like, man, we need to bring back Trivial Pursuit. That would be a big hit these days because that was you guys are all too young, but in like the mid '80s when that came out, that was like it was like Michael Jackson popular. It was like Thriller popular. Everybody had Trivial Pursuit and everybody played it. So it's time again. But yeah, I think that Arkansas they haven't won anything literally since like the early '70s. Vanderbilt's never won anything.
I mean, Arkansas had that 1 year with Petrino and Ryan Mallett, where I think they played into a New Year's Six bowl. But yeah, I mean, otherwise,
right? But that's the ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've proven that's the ceiling. Missouri, no ceiling. There is a ceiling. It's
they won.
Low.
They won the SEC East 2 years in a row. Their first
2 years in a row, right? Yeah. So it's like, man, which should have proved to people, man, maybe the SEC isn't as great as we think. Missouri just rolls in and starts winning that one of the half of the conference. Yeah. So yeah, I think that when you're thinking long term, and if there are any visionaries trying to control this and being the puppeteer, you want teams that have a chance to viably win championships and compete with your big boys in your conference. Clemson clearly is one. Florida State has proven it can be one. You don't let them dangle off to the side while you placate Vanderbilt in the Mississippi schools, because they don't do anything for you. They never have. ESPN would chop them off tomorrow if they could.
Well, it's not placating them. I think it'd be like placating Georgia and Florida. Like, no, we don't want to give them a recruiting advantage. The same way that you talked about, probably you don't want to go after UCF if you're Florida State. Like, you don't want.
Well, it was under the premise that Pollock was talking. I was only using the premise that Pollock was talking about, like if you bring in Clemson.
Right.
Well, of course, South Carolina doesn't want that, but they're bringing them in anyway because they matter. I think if you're worried about the bottom line, you bring in Florida State and Clemson and maybe 2 or 3 others. But I think that's a ways down the road. I don't know why the SEC would do that right now, because clearly they're the biggest, baddest conference in the country, and they're just getting bigger and badder. So I want to see. I'm really interested in what the next expansion is. That to me will be the key to the whole thing. Yeah. What happens? Who's the next conference that actually adds somebody that matters? What's that going to be? Is it going to be the ACC taking somebody from the Big Ten? Vice versa? Is it going to be Notre Dame? That will tell me, I think, where all this will end, where all this is going. Right now, it's just the SEC beating its chest, much to the dismay of half the conference. That now makes it. Missouri's got to love life. Great. Now we got to beat Oklahoma too. Awesome. Thanks. This is a lot of fun. We're going to go 4-8 every year. So I want to see what the Big Ten and the ACC do. And then we'll know where this thing. I think we'll have a much better idea where this thing ends up.
I wonder how much of it's going to be that recruiting kind of corollary where when you got a guy and he's committed to you, he's awesome. And then when he decommits, it's like, well, we didn't really want him anyways. In terms of the relationship that we have with the SEC, because everybody listening to this show, deep down in parts they don't like to talk about at parties, realizes that the SEC, is the more impressive decorated football conference.
Oh,
in the
for
country.
everybody,
But-
like
And we resent the hell out of them for that, but we don't.
Sure.
We don't. We're just like whatever. You guys are. We don't admit that. We don't want to talk about our feelings like that in front of people. But if there's only one lifeboat out there, we want to be on that lifeboat. But to your point, when this next round of expansion comes around, which it will, if there's another option, like would we take a home with Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame, which would be formidable, and be like, all right, that's good enough, or would we want to kind of be like, all right, no, we'd rather be in the SEC? But I guess it really wouldn't matter at that point because
at that point it doesn't matter because they're both very similar.
Yeah.
If you're in the Big Ten with those teams, with Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio State and Clemson, that's a big boy conference. You can compete with the SEC. So I don't think that. I think at that point maybe you say no. The problem, of course, was back in the early 90s, the SEC and the ACC were much different. And, I guess you could say Florida State chose wrong, or maybe they didn't have a choice to make. Either way, when it comes again, they will not – they have to set themselves up for long term. There was no way to know in 1991 that this is what the landscape would look like 30 years later, but it is what it is. So now you have to make an adjustment, and it'll be I just think whatever that. But I will say this, getting back to the point you were making, absolutely, nobody has hammered the SEC more than I have since the Mississippi State debacle. Like it's just been nonsense for 7 years. But if Florida State was offered a spot in the SEC tomorrow, I would say yes before the question was even out. Before they'd even got, absolutely. 100 times yes, 1,000 times yes. Like a proposal or something. Oh, I never thought this day would come. I would run down the beach, take off my shirt, jump into the ocean, whatever I had to do, man. Like, of course, that's not the lifeboat. That's the cruise liner. Yeah. And so absolutely. I would hate it. I just hate I think even SEC fans and probably even Texas and Oklahoma fans aren't exactly over the moon with this development.
Yeah, my ET
because of
buddy,
what it does to the sport.
Yeah, my ET buddy. I'm like, if I ever see you chanting SEC, I'm like, we're done. And he's like, absolutely. He's like, if you see me tweet out SEC, he's like, find me, hurt me. I'm like, all right.
That will, you know what that is. I guess we'll end it on this, but that is an interesting development. I think is you now have two schools that are coming into this conference that won't beat their chest every time Alabama wins a championship. They'll actually be a little upset by it, don't you think? So they'll join Auburn.
So. Yeah, I hope.
Because they've lived it. They've lived on the other side of it, and they know how stupid it is for other schools to take pride and glee in another school winning a championship that you had nothing to do with. Flexing. Tennessee fans flexing because Alabama won another one. Go. Congrats. So you now have two schools coming in that don't give a rat's behind about that and actually will be mad about it, I think. So hopefully, maybe that change. So now you'll have Auburn, Texas, and Oklahoma. You'll have three schools at least that are upset when Alabama wins a national title. That is an interesting thought. That like, there's no way Oklahoma fans are going to be jumping into that SEC nonsense. Gosh, now they might chant SEC when they're winning a game, but they're not going to take to Twitter and take to Facebook and be like, "I can't." The SEC dominates again. We won another one. It's like, no, Oklahoma, you didn't win anything. You got boat race in the semifinals again. So, that's that in Texas. They're too proud. Right. Those are proud programs, which is the difference between them and most of the rest of the SEC.
And what are they going to do, Corey? There's 16 teams. They're going to probably have a schedule that's going to be, 90% SEC games.
Well, and that's one of the concerns is you do wonder. There's already talk because who cares about tradition in college football anymore? But there's already talk about, well, does Florida really need to play Florida State? Are they going to go to 9 or 10 games? Like, what? Nobody wants to go to 9 games because that means you have 5 road conference games every year or every other year. And nobody's going to want that. Nobody's going to want to play 5 in one year and then 4 another year. So now you have to go to 10 games, and you have 5 and 5. Well, then is Florida still going to want to play Florida if they have 10 SEC games? Does South Carolina want to play Clemson? And who knows? Who knows the future of that? Because, again, nobody that makes these decisions cares at all about the tradition and history of the sport, which is a shame. But I care. Even in Biloxi, Mississippi, buddy.
As we leave you, Trivial Pursuit was created December 15th, 1979 in Montreal by Canadian Chris Haney. The rights to the game were initially licensed to Selchow and Ryder in 1982, then Parker Brothers in 1988. In 2008, Hasbro bought the full rights, $80 million for Trivial Pursuit.
Nice. That's good info, man. Good work.
Wikipedia. I donated $3 in their little pledge drive a few weeks ago because...
Nice, man. That makes you a good person.
I try. All right, folks. We will probably be back with a Renegade Express edition of this program to cap the week off. And then when we do this again on Monday, everybody, again, we'll have practice observations and quotes, the whole shebang, as Florida State opens up camp on the 7th, August 7th. In the meantime, stay connected to warchant.com. Plenty of content coming up over on the website. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to the program. Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.